Everyone. Hello. I'm Hannah Walcher. I am the Executive Director of the California Independent Booksellers Alliance, and we are the lucky hosts for our first session of the Tri-West Summer School courses. Before we get started, I'm going to kind of stall a bit to allow more people to join, but also give you some information. So first off, we are recording this session so people who are not able to attend can join us. So if you don't feel comfortable on screen, feel free to close your camera and you can engage in the chat if you would like. My coworkers Alicia and Valentina are here who can help with any questions that aren't related to the conversation. You can tag them and ask them in the chat for assistance. You can even ask your question in the chat and I will ask it on your behalf if you are not comfortable coming on screen. Otherwise, this is a roundtable. So though we have Rebecca and Nikki here to share their experiences and what they do, we'd also love to hear what you're doing or get questions about anything that you might have that in regards to what we're talking about today. So again, welcome. And now I'm going to move over to what I plan to say. Thank you for attending this year's first summer school session, a roundtable to discuss hosting community events for fun and profit. Before we get started, I want to first thank Brian and Heather, my counterparts at the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association and Mountains and Plains Booksellers Association, for continuing to co-host and co-create these yearly summer school sessions. And of course, I want to thank this year's summer school sponsor, Source Books, who will also be teaching a session later this summer on genre fiction. Their support is greatly appreciated. Second, I want to remind everyone in this room about the Sherman Antitrust Act, which reminds us that even though this is an idea sharing space, we are still competitors and need to refrain from the following. One, discussions of price or pricing policies. Competitors are never allowed to agree on the price at which merchandise is sold or discounts at which merchandise is offered. Discounts of price and pricing policies are strictly off limits. This really, for us, is about books and merchandise. So if you have questions about an event pricing, most of those things are public and you can discuss those. However, second, no discussion of boycotts. Competitors cannot agree to cease doing business with any supplier for any reason, nor can competitors agree to urge consumers to boycott a third competitor. It's collusion and strictly prohibited. Three, no discussions of dividing up a market. For example, if there are two booksellers in New York City, they cannot agree that one will market only to the consumers north of 57th Street, while the other markets only to customers south of 57th Street. This is also collusion. Just needed to get that out there. Finally, this is a roundtable. Like I said earlier, please participate. You are welcome to ask your questions, you are welcome to go off mute and ask your questions or to enter them in the chat for Caliba staff to ask on your behalf. Again, my coworkers Valentina and Alicia are in the background monitoring the chat and can help with any questions you might have not related to the session. All right, without further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome our two moderators, Nikki High, owner of Octavia's Bookshelf in Pasadena, California, and Rebecca Leeber-Got, co-owner and events coordinator for Rediscovered Books in Boise, Idaho. Thank you both for joining us today, and I'll pass it on to you to tell the group a bit about the community events you host in your stores. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah, for inviting me, and thank you all who have taken time out of your day to participate. I know firsthand how difficult it is to carve out some time for stuff like this, so I'm just delighted to be here. So as Hannah mentioned, I own a bookstore in Pasadena called Octavia's Bookshelf. It is dedicated to the legacy and writings and memory of Octavia E. Butler, who is my favorite author of all times, and in my opinion, one of the most important people ever to come from the Pasadena, Altadena area. She was born, raised, and is buried there. So that is a little bit about my store. So when Hannah mentioned this roundtable discussion related to events that are authorless, I was immediately excited about it because the reality is probably about 70% of the events we do are authorless. Um, and that is not only out of necessity, but also I think that it helps to engage more people in the community, which is really a cornerstone of what we're doing at Octavia's Bookshop. So just to give you an idea of some of the authorless events that we do, since we opened every Tuesday night, we have Stitch and Bitch. And folks knit, crochet, we have beaters, cross stitchers, sketchers. I mean, whatever you want to do. Some people don't know how to do any of those things and they just come and hang out. And we've really created a family, uh, sort of the core people that come every Tuesday. So we always say, like, you can stitch or bitch or both. And so that's our Stitch and Bitch. That's just like an ongoing thing. We have held events related to Black maternal health, where we have panel experts discussing Black maternal health rates, what we can do to connect Black women specifically because our outcomes are the worst in that area, what we can do to improve those outcomes, how we can collectively, just help one another. We do workshops related to breast cancer awareness, breastfeeding. We combined two of those subjects in the last year where we taught everybody how to crochet a boob. Um, and we got to talk through it with, how to self-administer breast exams, how to get a baby to latch on, whatever, whoever is a boob haver or wanted to know more about them, we're welcome to come. We got a grant to do that. We post fire. I don't know how familiar you guys are with Pasadena, but Pasadena and Altadena are two cities. We're one community. My store is about a block south of Altadena. So post Eaton Fire, I actually for the first nearly month just used the store as a mutual aid hub. And I did that with the support of the community. So we moved all of our books off the shelf and we just operated as a mutual aid hub. The money for that was 100% through community efforts. We just had people like, hey, don't stop doing this. Here's some money to pay the bills. Once that started to dry up, of course, we had to get back to business because we have bills to pay. We also partnered with Los Angeles County Mental Health Services to offer group therapy on Tuesdays and Thursdays, led by healthcare professionals for survivors of the Eaton Fire. We've had other mental health workshops. We have hosted punch needle workshops. Hannah actually attended one of those. I partnered with our local librarian's daughter, who's a high school kid. She led the workshop. It was a paid event. People loved it. We had a really good time. We made a really cool project. She was able to get some experience leading a workshop. She was also able to get paid for it, as were we. Journaling workshops before opening hours. We have Sunday meditations. We've done yoga, sound baths, yoga. I'm working with a local fabric and sewing shop right now to host a fabric block class based on Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. So details for that are coming soon. But those are just some of the things that we have done outside of author events.
And I'm Rebecca Leeber-Got. I am one of the 4 co-owners of Rediscovered Books in Boise, Idaho. We are in the process of moving locations for our store. We have been around for 19 years. We've been 14 years in this location. So if you look behind me, this is just a small pile of the, oh my God, how did we acquire so much stuff that has happened. with the move. But like Nikki, we have our store's mission is to be the place where books and people meet. This year for 2025, living in Idaho, for many people, it is a very difficult place to be right now for a wide variety of reasons. So we decided to sort of spin that off and be the place where people and people meet. So we've really been trying to focus on, our initial response when things get frightening is we stay at home and we hide. And we have been trying to provide opportunities for people to come out and gather, and not just gather and commiserate, but gather in joy and gather and do something constructive. So, we've been doing things like jigsaw puzzle night. We did a jigsaw puzzle night. We had 40 people show up to sit in the store and do jigsaw puzzles for 2 hours. Who knew? We've done we call it a BYOHH, bring your own headphones and handicrafts, which is kind of our spin on a silent book club craft night. And you walk in the store and there's all these people who are doing calligraphy and sewing and whatever, and they've all got their headphones in, all listening to their Libro FM or Libby books. But that has been really effective. We've been doing open mic nights and writers workshops, just opening up the store and setting up tables for a place for people to gather, and they can talk about their writing or they can just write. We've started doing bookseller led book clubs, which we take out into the community. We don't do in the bookstore. So your ticket includes a copy of the book and a $5 voucher to wherever we happen to go in the community, which introduces book club people to each other, but also to different venues around Boise who are also small businesses. So we want to be encouraging, like Nikki was talking about, those relationships with other businesses and other organizations. We've also done Boise does a first Thursday event every month, and we try and use that event for an opportunity for education. We've had the Intermountain Bird Observatory come in and talk about how the wildfires have affected their bird research. We've got graduate students who are doing projects on preventing birds crashing into windows. So we had them talking about those kind of things. How to bird. We had the Golden Eagle Audubon Society here. So we try and find organizations that either work together or we think should know each other, and bring those in, whether that's talking about domestic violence, whether it's voter registration, whether it is ways to support people in your community through physical needs, whether that is the food bank or the diaper bank or Jesse Tree for housing, those kind of things. We've wanted to be a place where we catch people who are coming through the bookstore and give them an opportunity to learn about something. So, we've been doing that. One project we've been doing in conjunction with another nonprofit in Boise is we are 6 years into a project that we do every summer called the Read Freely Project. It started in response to the book banning in the Idaho legislature 5 years ago. And every summer we pick 5 titles that are banned, challenged, or books that we think are worthy of conversation. We do a fundraiser and we give away, we have 100 volunteers apply and we give them 10 copies of one of the books to give away. So every summer we are giving away 1,000 books. One book at a time. And what we require people to do is you have to hand it to someone. I don't care if you're running down the greenway or sitting in a bar or it's your kid's soccer team, or, I wheeled through the grocery store with my cart and gave them away, but you have to put them in somebody's hands. And so this has been a real way for us to connect with people, and open the opportunity, like Nikki was talking about, to have some difficult conversations, provide some informational opportunities for people. And not all of these events are free. That's the one thing that Nikki and I were talking about is you have to, it's great that you're a good community citizen, but we got to keep the lights on. We got to pay the staff. So there are ways to kind of do these events in a way that are simultaneously affordable, but also generate income to cover your staffing for the event or the after hours or the refreshments, to do those kind of things. So as you're thinking about community authorless events, one of the things that we found out is it's great when you have authors in, right? It's always but it's even better when you give people in the community an opportunity to meet the people who live in their community and who they're going to see regularly. So those are kind of some of the ideas that we've had, that we've been flying around. And anytime one of my staff says, "Hey, can we?" I'm like, "Sure, we'll try it once."
Mhm.
And most of the time we've been very pleasantly surprised with puzzle night, for example.
Yeah, we to add to that, we recently had a young artist come in and do an art installation. And she's also selling prints. And so she has the whole back corner of the bookstore. She did all the setup. We collaborated on a post. But it's a really neat way to get people to get into the shop. They're looking at this beautiful art. They get to learn about the artist. They get to purchase, hopefully art, but if they can't, prints are available. And we're doing it on a commission base, but it's also another like added conversation piece.
Hmm.
So when people walk in, I was just speaking to someone yesterday, an artist, she said, "Oh, I didn't know that was a thing." And I said, "Well, I didn't either. This artist just emailed me." And I told her I had a capacity of 0 to do this. And she said, "Well, I'll do everything." And
Yeah.
it was a really low lift way to highlight a local artist, and to generate some excitement behind her artwork, that really is speaking to a lot of what we're experiencing today. But also, it would be disingenuous of me to say that that is the only thing that I get from it. I also get a portion of the sales. I feel like it's fair, on both sides, and that we're both in agreement in it, and we feel really good about the arrangement. But it does equal a sell for her, a sell for me. And then, what I noticed over the weekend is that if somebody came in to purchase a book, they were like, "Oh, I didn't even see this art print here. I'm going to get this as well." So there was a complimentary aspect to it.
And that's something with the new store we are moving into has 1,000 square foot dedicated event space,
Mm,
which we are super excited about because it gives us, what we've decided is we're going to do exactly that. The walls are prime real estate. And
mhm,
so we are reaching out to the local arts community to say, "Hey, if you would like to, have some wall space, we want to do this and we want to rotate it through." So we're finding ways to engage with other people, in other ways to support them. But also, like Nikki was talking about, it's an income opportunity that we really don't have to do except, "Hey, I have this wall."
mhm,
Um, and that's really something that, um, it makes the world a more beautiful place. But it also lets you think about kind of more passive streams of income, like Libro FM and Bookshop and Bonfire, some other ways that you can use the space that you have, in ways that are lucrative and simultaneously supportive of the community.
So we do have one question in the chat from Whitney. Um, they ask, "Do you see people buying books at these events?" Which I think is
yeah.
a great question.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. I had one person come to an art making event, and she sort of like giggled to me. She said, "Yeah, I just wanted an excuse to come here and buy more books anyway." So it was like she did the event, she paid for it, she had a good time, but she was like, "Also, I kind of get to shop by myself, or like in a very, intimate way after hours, and there's only, 5 or 6 other people there." So, um, yeah, they always buy books.
And I second that. Like I said, we don't ever do a sale in the store. So when you attend one of our after hours events, everything in the store is 20% off. There's a nice one. But like when we do events, like we did an authorless book related event for the book free period. That's a middle grade book.
Mhm.
And the author the author sent us crocheted uteruses that had googly eyes, for us to give away. But we partnered with the Boise Period Project. We partnered with a business in town that makes period underwear. We had, guess how many tampons in a jar, information stations and things like that. And I was absolutely shocked at not only the people that came, whole families, male, female,
Mhm.
conversations that were had, but also, people they come for this and then they're like, "Oh, I really like X. I'm going to take home this book," or you've talked to them about a book. I mean, we had in the free period all the mothers who were there were like, "Can we do a menopause party?" And
Mm.
so that's kind of right now what we're in the process of planning is
Yeah.
we've got a couple of doctors who want to come visit. We've got, businesses in town. It's like, heck yeah, half the store will be hot, half the store will be cold. We'll have sweet snacks, salty snacks, we'll have wine, whatever it is you need.
Mhm.
But that opportunity, people feel like Nikki said, you feel kind of special when you come into a store after hours, and you kind of get this curated shopping experience.
Nice.
There's another thing that we do as well, that's not in the store, but it's online. We launched a Patreon about a year ago, and that really was a desperate attempt to just keep the doors open. I was like, and so I uh the exclusivity of it, right, is like you get these perks, but they really are pretty low lift. One is that you get a 10% discount off of your in-store purchases. The other is you get access to tickets before they launch. So if we get somebody really big or um, a pre-order campaign, like you sort of get first dibs at that. But what we have seen that actually drives new memberships to Patreon is just me on Patreon with somebody from the shop doing a behind the scenes video or streaming a book club discussion or giving a rec every month of a book that someone in the shop has that they love. And those, 5, 10, $15 tiers per month. Um, I would say half of them have never stepped foot in the store, but they do engage on Patreon. Like, oh, you recommended this book, and if we recommend the book, of course you get a discount. But they've never been there, but they still feel connected to the shop because they're active with us on Patreon.
And I know we've got stores that are all different sizes, and I don't know, how bold you are. We had one of our employees said, "Gosh, it'd be really nice to do a grown-up book fair."
Mhm.
And we actually have taken a grown-up book fair on the road, and we do 3 or 4 a year at different venues. The most recent one we did at the Botanical Gardens. Um, and they're a heavy lift. I mean, no lie, they are
Mhm.
a lot of work and a lot of planning. Simultaneously, when you can, if you do it well, you bring a lot of money into the venue. But you can do, I mean, we can do $4,000 to $7,000 in 2.5 hours by
Mhm.
taking the book fair on the road.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there are those kind of things. We also do like a book and booze 4 times a year in the store. You buy a ticket, we have a local alcohol vendor, we have a local food vendor, six booksellers each talk about 2 books, and at the end of the night you go home with a bottle of wine and one of the books. And they wanted to do a fancy dress one, so we did a fancy dress one in February, and man, people came out dressed to the nines. We had everything from old bridesmaids dresses to that dress that you bought that you really wanted to wear somewhere but you haven't had anywhere to go, to we had one group show up in their big flouncy dresses. I mean, it was just so much fun. And the ticketing generates income, but also the vibe in the store generates it, and people were shopping.
Yeah.
People were going home with bags of books. um
Especially when alcohol's involved.
oh yeah.
Our
you know
adult book fair we do at a local brewery in Arcadia, and it's called Books and Brews. And that afternoon, like the first hour, it's just, people are just starting to arrive and get their drinks. But then I don't know, 3 hours in, we're like already packing up to leave because they've sold us out.
yeah,
And people have books and they're happy and they're really drunk. So
And there is really nothing greater than you look out, you know, you're at a vineyard and you're looking out on the grass and everybody's got wine and everybody's reading a book.
yeah.
You know,
Nice.
but you know, like you said, they're a heavy lift.
Mhm.
And we the first one we did, we actually ordered books in, and then we're like, why are we doing this? We're gonna walk and we're gonna take whatever we have multiples of on the shelf
Yep.
and take those and you know, get the booksellers in. It's very interesting because I don't know if any of you who have done this, but different venues draw different clienteles of people. So at the winery we get a very different group of people than we got at the botanical gardens, than we get at a brewery. um and you kind of, as you do that, you're like, oh, I need to be thinking about, you know, who is going to be coming to this, and what's kind of their price point, and how am I going to take things that I'm going to want to sell.
Cool. We do have some questions, some more questions. There's quite a few that are along the theme of marketing or getting the word out. So, do you have any marketing or PR tips? Do you use local publications? Are you just posters? Like, how do you really get people to show up?
Social media.
All right. Yeah.
And for, I know a lot of stores are not wanting to go there, but posting regularly to your Instagram or whatever, social media catches a lot of people. If you've got somebody who's creative on staff, that makes it even more fun. But I think that's probably for us our biggest way of getting a hold of people, and sending things out in our newsletters and letting partners know so that they can share it on their own networks.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with that. Social media is not intuitive to me, and I am very clumsy with it. I had a very, very young person who is a social media influencer who commented, um, they said, you know, like sort of your your clumsiness with social media is such a cool a cool thing. How did you come up with the idea to like just be publicly clumsy about it? Like the whole unpolished thing, like that's part of your shtick, right? And I was like, no, I'm 52. Like that's my, I just don't know how to do it. And the fact that this person thought that it was like, you know, some marketing team and, you know, like I'm making fun of myself because, you know, this doesn't feel, you know, like second nature to me. And it's like, no, this was me. And I actually thought I was doing a really good job. So I was humbled really quickly with that conversation. But I will say, I think just having that authentic voice, like I really built my brand on me as a person, which I know is a risk because I'm kind of mouthy, but um, I I don't have any help with social media. Like I use Canva. Sometimes somebody will feel really sorry for me and they'll help me make a post, but I am going on to Instagram right now just to see. I'm at 36,000 followers. I have less than 400 posts and so I don't even post regularly.
Yeah, I do see there's some advice in the chat from Sarah that we find that you need to post at least 6 times or more and include stories, include posts that involve a bookseller talking. Posts that have a person's face tend to do well, which is also something that I learned back when I was working at the bookstore and Instagram. Like if you're even with a mask, you know, even in those days when we were always masked up, you know, a person or a dog, a bookstore visiting dog or cat always does really well.
Yeah.
And
Thank
just
you for that.
repetition. Yeah.
Well,
thank you, Sarah.
and really, if you think about it, your biggest commodity is not the book you sell, it's the service that you provide. And so your ability to highlight, like Nikki, who you are, what you're about, but also showcase your staff, let your staff talk about books that they like. You know, the biggest thing is the person who said people have to see something 6 times. You want people to sort of get into the groove of taking a look at your social media, right? It doesn't do you any, it's like, oh, I'm going to post and then don't post for another month. You're not going to gain algorithm, and you're not going to gain people who want to follow and watch. And that's that's super helpful. I saw somebody also said flyers and things like that. Only thing is, that gets cost prohibitive, depending on how much color you're going to use on them. I don't know. But those do, we will do bag stuffers, make, quarter sheets or eighth sheets with things on them and bag stuff, when people shop. But that doing that can be cost prohibitive depending on how large your payout is. Somebody also said, use your newsletter if you do that. Send it out.
The newsletter is super helpful. The other thing I wanted to say is, sorry about that. The other thing I wanted to say is, we don't have a presence on TikTok, but when TikTok was, I think it left for an hour. I don't know. It was like, oh, we're not going to have it anymore. That actually started to signal to me something else, which was building my own email subscriber list. And so we are pretty aggressive about gently telling customers or asking for their email address so that we can communicate with them. I love that we have such an engaged following on Instagram, but if it went away tomorrow, I started thinking like I need to be able to reach my customers in a different way. So the newsletter is huge, but also keep in mind, like as often as you can, just try to ask for email addresses from your customers to continue to build that list. Because
Well, and somebody also, I saw, we do a monthly poster of all of our events with a QR code that takes people to the events page. And that QR code, and even when we do offsite events and stuff, we usually have a sign that has a QR code on it that says, interested in finding out more about what we do, QR. Thank you, COVID, for people learning how to use QR codes.
Yeah.
But that's something that is super, super helpful, and people can access at their own pace.
And we have another question here, which I think we were answering without knowing we're answering, but I just want to point it out from Christine. So Christine says, we host events, cooking classes and demonstrations, and author events that folks in our community / customers have requested, but then the registrations are so slow to non-existent for some classes. What are your thoughts on that? We feel like we're missing something in the communication to registration pipeline. And my thought was to do what Nikki does and have, if you're not already, have a email list. So when people suggest things, you should say, oh, great. We'll work towards that. Can I get your email so I can reach out to you when we do have it? So you're aware of the things, or we already do those. Can I add you to my newsletter, or so that we can let you know when they arrive and or when we have them. So I think that was one thought. Is there anything else that either of you or anyone in the group would like to add? I see some people did answer her question in the chat as well.
I think if you're going to do things like that, we do a lot of our ticketing through Eventbrite.
Yes.
And that's everything like our puzzle night. If you're going to be coming in the store, we've got limited space and limited seats. We charge $5. And, yes, it's a charge to come in, but, we have to staff it. But we always make sure that there's, snacks and drinks, and we do a giveaway.
Yeah.
Whether
and
like
you can
on
use
puzzle
reminders,
night,
which I think is really, you can remind people when they register. Which is
what's nice though is if you use Eventbrite, you get people who follow you on Eventbrite, and then when your events go live, they get pinged. And it's really amazing that I'm not even quite finished putting the graphic up on Eventbrite, and we've already got people registering who are getting pinged by Eventbrite without me doing anything. So that's something that works really nice. And it's once you get people sort of in that habit and saying, oh, we'll follow you because Nikki's store always has these great events. Once you get people following you, then they start realizing that that's a good place to go, and that's where your ticketing is going to happen.
We do all of our ticketing through our own website. We're already paying for that service, so we're not going to go through Eventbrite and have a portion of ticket sales get pulled.
Yeah. Fair.
But it's like, one example is we had so many people requesting kids cooking classes, and we're a culinary bookstore, so that's why we do all the cooking classes and everything. And so many people were requesting a kids cooking class. So we set one up. The first one happened to be like the day before Mother's Day, and it was all Mother's Day themed and everything. And we had to cancel it because nobody registered. And now we've got a kids summer cooking series. It's 4 classes. It's $200 for the whole series, and you get a book with it, which I was just going to take a sushi class, which was $100. Like, I'm a grown-ass adult with grown-ass adult money. Like, I am willing to spend that money. If I had a child, I would not spend $100 per class necessarily. But even that, it's been slow for registrations, and it's like a drop off during the summer. You don't like, it's something you don't need someone to babysit your kids. It's not an all day thing. I don't know. It's
Well,
just people ask for one thing and we're like, yes, okay, cool, we'll do it. There's interest. We plan it, we publish it, and we publicize it everywhere. Kim does great with all our social media. We get stuff out into the community. We've got flyers in the store. We've got our own newsletter, and then crickets.
Well, and we used to ticket our own events, and part of the reason we moved to Eventbrite is Eventbrite has automates, 4 days before the event, sends out an automated email. They took care of a lot of the things that our staff were having to do when we were ticketing, which meant contacting people to remind them, or if there was an event change. It just, and I know there was a cost, but I think ABA has a agreement with Eventbrite for a reduced price to use it for ABA members.
Okay.
And so if you look at ABA actually has got partnerships with a number, I think Zoom, they've got different like email platforms and things like that they have an ABA price that it might be worth looking into.
I also think just from the kids' perspective, like, so first and foremost for us, the summer is super slow always because people are on vacation. But for kid events, I will typically only do it in collaboration with a kid organization. So whether that be a school or LA parents or whatever, for us, we work with a social group called Jack and Jill. So they actually bring the audience to us. I love kids. I just am not completely dialed in because I don't have small kids anymore. And so I want to make sure that I'm reaching them where they are. So I don't know if it might be worth it to contact, like the teen librarian at your library or whatever, like moms groups in the area. If you can get dialed in with one of them, they will bring you more kids than you can probably.
Public libraries partnering. If you have not reached out to your public library and partnered with your public library, their reach is phenomenal. We did an event last night with Nathan Hale, Hazardous Tales. We had 199 people show up on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
To see Nathan Hale. And it was not our heavy lifting. It was the library who put it on all their runner boards and put it in their newsletter. And we're telling people, and your public library is a great partner.
Yeah. I would also recommend, from my experience, so I was a children's bookseller for 10 years before coming over to Kaliba. One of the things I did pre-pandemic, so it might need some research into what's happening now, was I would put all of BookSync's children's events on parenting calendars or mothers groups calendars. They're free, so looking into that, if you have a Facebook page, seeing if there's any parent groups that you can advertise that in, I would go where they are. Busy parents, if they have 10 minutes to scroll something, try to find them where they are. And I do think library connections are fantastic. My only caveat with libraries is oftentimes they're not allowed to pay or to charge for events. So, keep that in mind. If you're like, I need to ticket this, they may not be your best partner since they have that limitation.
But simultaneously,
still,
you can't charge for the ticket. But like last night, we had 200 people show up and they bought books.
Correct. Yeah.
You show up with your book table and they buy books. So you're doing that, opening events up to families that are not cost prohibitive to families, but simultaneously by selling the books and having the author there now, author signing, you're able to make it worth your store's time to do it.
We also did an event with Bob Barker's Marionette, where we just set up inside, like just outside of their ticket booth in the lobby. So all the kids who were coming to the Marionette show, knew that we were going to be there. So it was like a double win for them. The parents get to bring their kids to a Marionette show. We have our books, and we were able to sell out the theater. And so we got a portion of their ticket sales on top of what we sold in books.
Great. I do have one question that I have not asked. It is from Yulia. Have you had any success with virtual events too?
During COVID, yes. During COVID, I guess I should give you a little bit of background. I'm actually a college history professor who fell into the book biz about 7 years ago. I teach online. I've taught online for an online university for 31 years. So when COVID happened, for me, it was a very natural twist to say, yes, we need to do this and we need to do it right away. So we did everything from community conversations, we did author events, we did writing workshops, we did all sorts of things. And at that time, it was good. People were reaching out. We do far less virtual events now, I think, because over the arc of COVID, they were kind of over it. We might do 1 or 2 a year, and it depends on if it's a local author who has kind of a reach across the United States. But we have really kind of very much moved away from virtual events, simply because people now, they can get out of their house and go do things elsewhere. So the reach is a lot smaller.
I have not done many non-author related virtual events, but the author related virtual events, similar to what Rebecca was saying, if the author has a really wide reach. So my most recent example is Susanna Barkataki's book, Ignite Your Yoga. She has a huge reach. We did a order campaign, and then I had a book talk with her virtually, and that was very well attended by people who had pre-ordered the book.
Yeah. I think if you're going to do them now, I think you need to be really selective on what you're going to do. Boise's not on anybody's way to anywhere. So if somebody reaches out, like during COVID, we partnered with bookstores in Connecticut, bookstores in Georgia, and it's like, hey, I can get Kristen Hanna. Do you all want to sort of jump in and make this a big collaborative effort? Because I can get Kristen Hanna if I've got enough bookstores who want to do this virtual event. That would be something that we would think about, but I think you would have to really, really be selective about what you're doing, and you would have to be incredibly intentional about how you get people to do that.
Great. Thank you. I don't think I've missed any questions in the chat. Does anybody else want to take a minute to, celebrate what you're doing and share, or do you have any other questions?
I'm loving what people are sharing in the chat.
Yeah, and I'll try to, my team and I will work on pulling your tidbits out for a recap.
I've been making notes.
Yeah, so we can share with the
here.
recording. Anybody else want to share or ask questions?
I guess one thing I do want to say is, if you haven't waded into doing authorless events, and you've got the bandwidth to do it, pick one and try it. It's actually incredibly surprising and satisfying, because I think people are looking for ways, whether they're cost with a ticket or something, but I think they're looking for ways to get together, and they're looking for things like I said, jigsaw puzzle night, who knew? But they're looking for ways to get together. So if you've got staff that is creative and willing, or you're creative and willing and want to just try something, there's really a low stakes and low stakes to try some of these, and people will let you know that they like them and they want another one.
So we've got some interesting things in the chat. Someone, Yulia again asked, any success with book swaps and book exchanges, which Michaela said yes to. And Whitney said, we did a singles mixer at the bookshop and it was a big hit, which I would love to hear about.
Yep.
That sounds fun. And there's like monthly, oh my gosh, now there's too many things in there for me to
Yeah.
changing, but lots of great ideas. So we'll pull those out too.
Yep.
But it sounds like people do singles mixers. Does anyone want to come in and
I'll
We
say
do.
something.
Whitney?
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
We did this last month. It was only like a couple weeks ago, but the tricky thing was making sure we had an even number of we said guys and gals, so we had 80 people and it was 40 guys and 40 gals to, because we definitely have plenty of women. I don't know if anybody else has that, but marketing to men can sometimes be a little trickier. And it was for 2 hours. The whole store was discounted. I think we just did like 15% off. We had drinks that people could buy. We had a like gigantic crossword puzzle for everybody to work on. And then everybody had a name tag. And the question to kind of was the icebreaker was, what's a book that everybody should read? Kind of encourage conversation. And it was just a fun, flirty atmosphere. So we're gonna do it again. We might do a Silver Fox one, enjoy the 50 plus, and just play with it a little bit.
We did a not your average date night.
Nice.
And it can be, I mean, it was like you want to bring your friend, you want to bring your mom, you want to bring your, whoever, your brother. And we did like gift bags for them, and we had a little kind of question icebreaker. And in there, we had wine in the store, but they had little snacks in their bag, and all kinds of things. And, got like their ticket included like a $10 voucher to buy a book for the other person.
Wonderful. Yeah, there's some great ideas popping up.
Yeah.
Can I
Well,
add
for
just
example,
one more that's really fun is PowerPoint parties.
Oh, yeah.
Those are huge.
Yeah. Can you describe those a little bit in case folks
That
aren't aware of it?
is, people come to a PowerPoint party and you have you select 5 people, and they literally set up a PowerPoint on their favorite subject, which can be anything, and they are wild and fun. The store is discounted for the evening. People are laughing. They're, buying books and having a really fun time with the PowerPoint presentations. And the rule is that the presentation has to be ridiculous, like
Mhm.
the silliest thing.
Yeah, perfect. Now we have one more question that I think is important, so I'm going to ask it with the last like 12 minutes we have in our time. From Christine, we have about 800 square feet, so hosting people in our shop is tough. Thoughts on smaller events?
Mm-hmm. I am in 630 square feet.
Yeah, I knew you would have an answer, Nikki. As someone who shops in your store, I was like, oh.
I mean, obviously, I'm sure you get really creative with moving furniture around. But for at least in my store, that sort of creates some of the excitement. Like we always say, we're a tiny but mighty shop, or we're gonna get cozy because that's like that's our thing, and people love it. So yeah, sitting close to each other, snuggling, like just making the space cozy and comfortable. I think puts people at ease, but also the really cool part is that, if it's not a hugely well-attended event, it still seems like it is because we're so small. But I think just leaning into the smallness of it, like, and it also does create some urgency in for us. So people who have been in my store, they know how small it is. So I'm like, hey guys, you know what we're dealing with. So like tickets are going to go on sale at this time. And then before you know it, they're like sold out because folks know that we have to cap it at a pretty small number.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I think leaning into what you think is your biggest weakness, right? It's if you're like, oh, size, but I think leaning into that, I think, is kind of what makes it fun, right? Because you offer the expertise, you offer the environment, and your bookstore is kind of the greatest place in the world to be.
True. Yeah. Any other shares or questions? We still got 10 minutes if we want. I feel like we could all talk about things, the book world forever.
Well, I appreciate everybody that has took the time today to come and, put ideas. I'm so excited to take a look at the chat and see what people are doing. And, I think we do, the book industry is so different than every other industry in that we are not proprietary about the things that we do. And I love the fact that people are like, hey, this is what I do, and this is how much I charge for the ticket, and this is what's gone really well, and this is what I do next time. That's really great, and I think that adds to the mystique of the indie bookstores, is that we really are kind of one big bookstore happy family. And thank you all, because I've got to say, some of our best events I have totally stolen from somebody else's bookstore. And you put your own spin on it, and I think that is amazing for our customers and for our employees.
For sure.
Yeah, we have one real, yes, thank you. And yes, I agree with the sentiment. I'm watching we have one more question from Stephanie. Do you have thoughts about ways to create authorless events that are fun and festive for attendees without it being a whole lot of work for your staff? So,
Bitch and bitch.
Yep.
yeah.
Seriously, it is the most low lift thing. It's a flyer that's posted on our door. Come every Tuesday night from 6 to 7:30.
Silent book clubs, the book clubs where you bring your audiobook and your craft events, don't require much. Puzzle night, really, we set up tables and we all, there's a bunch of us who brought puzzles in and dumped them out on the tables. They're actually they're a pretty low lift. Writers workshops, a lot of times people are looking for space. So your authorless events don't have to be something that requires a great deal of legwork, as well as personnel.
And then recently, I just want to add, we partnered with another local bookstore called Rep Club. And Rep Club, her version of a silent reading night is called Read the Room. And so she decided to do one called Read the Park, but it was a collab with us. Libro FM donated audio copies of Parable of the Sower. So we all met at a big park in Los Angeles, her customers, my customers. We discussed Parable of the Sower. We had food trucks, we had a band, and it was just a really, really nice collaboration that yielded so much goodwill. It made everybody feel great. And then my customers got to meet her customers, and we realized that there was a lot of overlap, and it was just a really good time. But Libro has been an amazing partner.
Oh man, Libro is an awesome partner.
Yeah. I think Alicia put in there that they shared resources recently for an audiobook walk, which is very cool.
Yeah.
And I know we're kind of towards the end of our minutes here, but I do want to mention, Nikki and Rebecca and I talked about this before we went live, but how sometimes you may not make money the day of the event, but it always comes back to you. People are always going to return and shop later. So keeping that in mind when you're setting up these events, like maybe, at the end of the night, you made, $20 on the ticket sales, but you didn't sell anything in your store. Well, I'm sure people will come back, and Nikki and Rebecca can speak to that better, but keeping that in mind. Yeah.
Absolutely. Really one of the things when we do, whether it's an offsite book sale or whatever, one of the biggest things that we're doing is it's community outreach. We love our regulars that come in. We really, really do. But what we really want to do is we really want to grow new customers. So a lot of times doing these events where you're like, oh, I got 40 people who showed up to do puzzles and nobody bought anything. But if you looked at that list of 40 people, 25 of them have never set foot in your store before. And so that's 25 people that got a chance to walk around and see what it feels like, and you've gotten a chance to talk to them, who at some point will come back. And they'll tell somebody who'll tell somebody who'll tell somebody, that's totally what you want.
Also, this might be kind of separate, but B2B orders, I mean, I literally just reach out via email to organizations and businesses and corporations local to Pasadena, Altadena, and I'll be like, hey, I was just thinking about this thing and I read this book and I feel like this would really resonate, with your customers or your staff. And my name's Nikki. I own this bookshop, you know, if you'd like to place this order, I can get it going for you. That has been successful probably like I'd say 30% of the time, which is huge because then it'll be like Parsons, which will say, all right, well, we'll take 1,200 books.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and it's all about developing those relationships, right? Because then somebody will say, oh my gosh, you guys do grown-up book fairs. Would you be willing to come to our elementary school and do a book fair?
Mhm.
Because Scholastic, it's always the same over and over, and we're just not very happy with them. So, I mean, it presents you with opportunities that you might not be thinking about.
Perfect. We're at the end here. Any other last burning questions that I didn't get in the chat? Feel free to pop in and say hello or put them again in the chat. But this has been a very great conversation. Thank you, Rebecca and Nikki, and those of you participating in the chat. It's been really lovely to see all the collaboration and ideas share. So we will, obviously, the recording of this will be put up within the next couple of days in all of our regional websites. And I didn't say this at the top, but these Tri-West Summer School sessions are open to all indie bookstores across the country. You do not have to be a member of any of the three hosting regionals. So we welcome everybody in the indie world here. So thank you so much. It doesn't look like there's any last minute questions there. So we will do our best to figure out how to include the chat in our recaps for these so everyone can see the great ideas there. Thank you again for joining us. I do need to do a little outro really quick. Of course, yes, thank you to Rebecca and Nikki, and thank you to all of you for sharing your ideas. Before you go, I do want to again thank our sponsors, Source Books, and to remind you of our next summer school session happening Wednesday, June 18th at 12 p.m. PT. Pacific time, Intro to Bookstore Finances, taught by our friends at the Professional Bookselling School. So definitely don't want to miss that one. Make sure you register so you don't miss out. I obviously wrote this and also ad-lib things. Find all of our courses on our regional websites. I think my team is putting them in the chat as we speak. And that is it for today's course. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and maybe we'll see you again next week or later
Thank
on
you,
in
Nikki.
summer.
And thank you, Hannah. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.